Welcome to History Channel. Be sure to subscribe and like so you don't miss out on more videos like this one. Estonian volunteers fought alongside the Finnish army on the Karelian Isthmus in 1944, driven by a shared resistance to Soviet advances. One soldier's helmet bore painted flowers, a small sign of individuality amid war, while another displayed the Estonian tricolor, symbolizing national pride during one of Europe's most turbulent years. Captured on February 1, 1959. This haunting image shows the Dyatlov expedition shortly before tragedy struck in the Ural Mountains. All 9 hikers would perish under mysterious conditions, 6 from hypothermia, 3 from severe injuries. Despite decades of investigation, the Dyatlov Pass incident remains one of history's most unsettling cold case mysteries. In 1925, stunt performers Ivan Unger and Gladys Roy balanced on the wings of a moving biplane to play tennis thousands of feet above the ground. Their daring act captured the fearless spirit of the Roaring Twenties, a time when aviation stunts blurred the line between spectacle and self-endangerment. Nikola Tesla sits calmly beside his towering magnifying transmitter inside his Colorado Springs laboratory in 1899. The photograph captures the inventor in his element, surrounded by the energy he sought to master. Tesla's experiments with wireless power would lay the groundwork for future advances in electricity and radio technology. In 1849, French photographer Maxime Duchamp captured one of the earliest images of the Great Sphinx of Giza, weathered by centuries of desert wind. The colossal figure stood as both mystery and monument, long before modern restoration efforts revealed the ancient craftsmanship that continues to fascinate historians and travelers. During World War I in 1915, King Victor Emmanuel III of Italy observed field operations firsthand. Small in stature but determined in spirit, the monarch frequently visited the front lines to encourage his troops. His presence symbolized national unity during a time of heavy losses and political uncertainty across Europe. In late January 1959, Huey Newton bid farewell to Ludmila Dubinina as Igor Dyatlov looked on. Huey turned back due to illness, unknowingly saving his life. The rest of the Dyatlov group continued into the frozen Ural Mountains, where their mysterious fate would become one of the greatest modern wilderness enigmas. In December 1942, soldiers Frank Perconte and Carwood Lipton, later immortalized in Band of Brothers, rested with Easy Company men during their grueling 115-mile march from Toccoa to Atlanta. The journey tested endurance and loyalty, forging the camaraderie that would carry them through the bloodiest battles of World War II. In 1945, the frozen Danube bore the wreckage of a destroyed bridge in Budapest, a silent witness to the devastation of World War II. Once a thriving city center, Budapest became a battlefield as Soviet and German forces clashed, leaving its landmarks shattered and its people desperate for survival and peace. On October 3, 1995, students at Augustana College reacted to the not guilty verdict in O.J. Simpson's murder trial. The moment reflected a nation divided as emotions of disbelief, anger, and relief rippled across campuses and living rooms alike, highlighting the deep social and racial tensions underlying the high-profile case. In 1975, North Korean leader Kim Il-sung met Algerian President Houari Boumediene, marking a symbolic alliance between two revolutionary nations. Their meeting represented Cold War-era diplomacy beyond the Western sphere, as leaders from Asia and Africa sought shared recognition and independence amid the global tension between superpowers. This aerial photograph of Warsaw, taken months after the 1944 uprising, reveals a city reduced to rubble. Entire districts were leveled in retaliation for resistance efforts against Nazi occupation. The once vibrant capital of Poland stood in ruins, its skyline replaced by ash. Yet its spirit of defiance would endure through rebuilding. On October 19, 1994, a suicide bomber targeted a bus on Tel Aviv's Dizengoff Street, killing and injuring dozens. The attack marked one of the most devastating acts of terror during the fragile Oslo peace process, underscoring the volatility and human cost of ongoing conflict in the Middle East. Between 1907 and 1953, Los Angeles, California Alligator Farm offered picnics among trained alligators, an attraction now unthinkable. Visitors could feed or pose beside the reptiles, blurring the line between curiosity and danger. The bizarre pastime reflected a bygone era of spectacle-driven entertainment and America's fascination with the exotic and wild. In 1977, Black Panther co-founder Huey Newton met People's Temple leader Jim Jones in Cuba. Both men represented turbulent movements, one for liberation, the other descending into fanaticism. Less than 2 years later, Jones would lead over 900 followers to their deaths in Jonestown, casting a shadow over radical 1970s politics. In 1916, a young factory worker, known as a radium girl, carefully painted luminous radium on clock dials in Orange, New Jersey. Unaware of the deadly effects of radiation exposure, many women later suffered grave illnesses. Their tragedy would become a catalyst for modern workplace safety standards and workers' rights. On November 25, 1971, a McDonnell F-4B Phantom II from VF-111 Sundowners released 500-pound bombs over Vietnam. The image captures the intensity of aerial warfare during America's long and controversial campaign, symbolizing both the technological might and the devastating human cost of the Vietnam conflict. In 1942, Grumman Wildcats and Supermarine Seafires lined the deck of HMS Formidable, ready for takeoff. The color photograph, rare for its time, immortalized the organized chaos of naval aviation during World War II, where precision, courage, and coordination determined survival on the open sea. On November 5, 1996, businessman Donald Trump attended a reception in Moscow during a visit captured by photographer Igor Tabakov. The photo offers a rare glimpse of Trump's international ventures in the post-Soviet era, decades before his political rise would make his past global dealings a topic of scrutiny. Around 1865, a young woman dressed in mourning held a framed photograph of her father, a Union cavalryman killed in the Civil War. The portrait within a portrait captured both grief and devotion, reflecting how photography preserved memory and offered solace in an age of immense national loss. Peggy Seal Harris spent decades searching for news of her husband, pilot Billy Harris, missing in action since 1944. In 2005, she discovered that the French town of Les Ventes had honored him yearly for 6 decades. A quiet act of remembrance bridging nations and generations through gratitude and sacrifice. Captured around 1900, this view of Paris reveals a city alive with movement and change. Horse-drawn carriages and electric trams shared cobblestone streets as elegant Parisians strolled beneath gas lamps. The photograph immortalizes the transition between centuries, when Paris stood as both the cultural heart and modern face of Europe. In April 1979, the red communist flag flew above the Arg Palace in Kabul, marking a dramatic power shift in Afghanistan. The Soviet-backed coup set the stage for decades of conflict, as foreign intervention and internal resistance reshaped the nation's destiny and drew global powers into a prolonged struggle. An Estonian policeman from the K-Commando tactical unit stands alert during the 1990s, a turbulent period following the nation's regained independence. Formed to combat organized crime and unrest, K-Commando became a symbol of Estonia's fragile but determined transition from Soviet rule to modern European democracy. On October 17, 1945, the USS Enterprise, America's most decorated World War II ship, returned to New York, the city's harbor filled with cheering crowds as Lady Liberty welcomed her victorious daughter home. The scene marked not just the end of war, but the homecoming of countless heroes who ensured peace. In 1909, Joseph Boxhall posed beside fellow sailor Francis Drake, unaware that within 3 years he would serve as the fourth officer aboard the RMS Titanic. Boxhall would survive the ship's sinking in 1912, his calm leadership helping others endure one of the most tragic maritime disasters in history. In May 1996, Russian soldiers and pro-Russian militiamen patrolled the shattered streets of Urus-Martin, southwest of Grozny. An elderly Chechen woman sat by the roadside, embodying civilian suffering amid the chaos. The photograph captures the human toll of the first Chechen war displacement, loss, and the quiet endurance of survival. In 1944, Private Eugene V. Weber offered a stick of chewing gum to a little girl in a Selborne, Luxembourg. Amid war's devastation, the small act of kindness symbolized humanity's resilience. Such gestures between soldiers and civilians remain enduring reminders that compassion can survive even in the harshest conditions. In 1918, Red Guard machine gun teams took positions on the streets of Helsinki during Finland's brutal civil war. The conflict between the socialist Reds and conservative Whites divided the nation. Amid the snow and rubble, young soldiers fought not only for territory, but for the very future of Finland. In 1954, a Paris police station held a room filled with forgotten belongings, umbrellas, bicycles, hats, and toys. Each lost item carried a silent story of its owner. The photograph captures post-war Paris in transition, a city balancing everyday normalcy with the lingering echoes of memory and human absence. In 1900, Winston Churchill stood in South Africa not as a prime minister, but as a war correspondent during the Second Boer War. Armed with a notebook instead of a weapon, he reported from the front lines, an experience that shaped his courage, ambition, and enduring understanding of conflict. By 1992, the Aral Sea had nearly vanished, leaving fishing boats stranded on its dry, cracked bed. Once one of the world's largest lakes, it was drained by Soviet irrigation projects gone wrong. The desolate remains in Minac, Uzbekistan, became a haunting symbol of ecological collapse and human mismanagement. Around 1900, U.S. cavalry soldiers posed proudly before the grizzly giant, a massive sequoia in Yosemite National Park. The image juxtaposed human might against nature's immensity, capturing both the pride of American expansion and the growing fascination with preserving the country's untamed wilderness for generations to come. In 1925, a photographer stood in the heart of New York City, capturing the rhythm of its streets. Pedestrians hurried beneath towering buildings as the modern age unfolded around them. This moment froze the city's restless energy, an early glimpse of the metropolis that would come to define the 20th century. In 1885, crates carrying the disassembled Statue of Liberty arrived in New York Harbor. Workers unpacked 350 bronze and iron pieces gifted by France. Over 4 months, they reassembled the colossal figure, piece by piece, giving America its most enduring symbol of freedom and international friendship. During a raid over Austria in 1944, the B-24 Liberator extra Joker went down in flames. Photographer SGT Leo Stautzenberger captured the explosion. He was meant to be aboard, but reassigned at the last moment. All 10 crewmen perished, leaving behind one of World War II's most haunting aerial images. On October 20, 1979, feminist protesters gathered in Times Square, New York, to denounce pornography's exploitation of women. Carrying banners and chants, they confronted an industry at its cultural peak. The moment marked a defining intersection of the women's movement, censorship debates, and the struggle over sexual representation in media. In 1919, spectators filled the Hall of Mirrors at Versailles to witness the signing of the peace treaty ending World War I. The grand ceremony masked deep resentment and fragile compromise, as the victors imposed harsh terms that would shape Europe's uneasy path toward another devastating conflict. In 1931, legendary makeup artist Jack Pierce transformed Boris Karloff into the monster for Frankenstein. Using cotton, collodion, and pure imagination, Pierce crafted one of cinema's most enduring figures. The photograph captures the quiet concentration behind the scenes of horror's golden age, where art and illusion merged into timeless iconography. Taken in 1917, the stern view of HMS Furious shows one of its massive, 18-inch guns, the largest ever mounted on a British warship. This experimental battlecruiser represented both naval innovation and the extremes of World War I engineering, where firepower and design pushed the limits of maritime warfare. A USO show in 1951 brought music and laughter to soldiers far from home. Performers entertained in makeshift stages across military bases, bridging the gap between war and normalcy. These shows became emotional lifelines, reminders of family, and the enduring human need for joy, even amid hardship. In 1989, a teenage boy, helped by his friends, offered flowers to Princess Diana during her visit. She accepted them with her signature warmth and smile. The brief encounter, captured on camera, reflected Diana's genuine compassion and her rare ability to connect with people across social and cultural divides. In January 1898, Colonel Pio Dominguez Laurent posed with his officers of the UKO Regiment in Matanzas during the War of Independence. The photograph captures Cuba's final struggle against Spanish rule, moments before the United States would intervene, changing the island's destiny and the shape of its revolution. 80 years ago, the USS Enterprise, the most decorated ship in the U.S. Navy, sailed up the Hudson River toward Navy Day celebrations. It was October 17, 1945. Crowds cheered as the legendary carrier returned victorious, symbolizing the courage and endurance that carried America through World War II. In April 1941, a guardsman from the 1st Battalion, Grenadier Guards, rode through Swanage, Dorset, on a motorcycle mounted with a Tommy gun. The image captures Britain's wartime ingenuity, as traditional discipline met new mobility soldiers adapting rapidly to defend their homeland against the growing threat of Nazi invasion. In January 1983, warning signs surrounded the abandoned town of Times Beach, Missouri. Once home to thousands, it was evacuated after toxic dioxin contamination. The ghost town became a grim reminder of America's environmental negligence and the urgent need for stronger safeguards against industrial waste and chemical disaster. In 1957, during America's atomic craze, a Las Vegas showgirl posed as Miss Atomic Bomb, adorned with a mushroom cloud costume. Her name, later identified as Anna Lee Mahoney, reflected the bizarre fusion of glamour and fear in the nuclear age, where atomic power became both spectacle and symbol. During the 1989 U.S. invasion of Panama, American soldiers paused to speak with local women amid the rubble of Operation Just Cause. The brief exchange captured the tension between liberation and occupation, as military intervention reshaped lives in the pursuit of political control and shifting Cold War interests. Around 1946, Captain Herbert Sobel, known from Band of Brothers, held his infant son in a rare, tender moment. The image contrasts with his strict military persona, revealing a quiet side of a man remembered by his soldiers for both his toughness and the burden of leadership. In 1983, Princess Diana met members of her favorite band, Duran Duran. The moment blended royalty and pop culture at the height of the 1980s, smiling and elegant. Diana's approachable charm bridged the gap between the monarchy and youth culture, solidifying her as a modern icon of grace and relatability.